We'll now begin with the webinar. Welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's joint webinar with Zengens and Now's Infosystems on repeatable and scalable data conversions with AI. My name is Preeti Chatterjee and I will be your host for the webinar. Before we get started, I'd like to remind you that you're welcome to submit your questions at any time during the webinar. We'll do our best to address them during the Q&A session at the end. This is the final installment of our three-part webinar series, and today's theme covers repeatable and scalable data conversions with AI, a key and relevant topic in enterprises in these dynamic and volatile times. For today's webinar, we have Caitlin, CEO and co-founder of Zengens. Prior to launching Zengens, Caitlin spent 20 years leading and advising global companies in financial services, telecommunications, and energy, where converting, managing, and optimizing data is a top priority. In the last several years, she focused on strategizing about and deploying innovative technology solutions like AI and innovation to help business grow and achieve strategic goals. We have Carl Driscoll, CTO of Zengens, an expert in business transformation, financial services, logistics, system architecture, design, and implementation. Carl has over 40 years of experience with architecture, design, and implementation of large mission critical applications, including more than 50 large scale system data migrations. As a founder and leader of multiple successful software startups, he led the creation of market leading platforms in financial services, logistics, and IT infrastructure. In addition, he has been a partner at several leading professional service firms, including PwC, CSC, and Booz and Company. Next, we have Dr. Srinivasan Narayan, or Srini, Now's EVP and Technology Leader. He is responsible for driving innovation and implementing digital technologies to transform business processes. Srini had several modernization and consulting programs for Fortune 500 clients over the past 2 decades across BFSI, retail, manufacturing, healthcare, and other industries across the globe. His unique ability to harmonize business growth, end user, technology, and solve key business challenges through technology transformation has been instrumental to successful engagements. He is a technology evangelist and a leader in the data and AI space. And we have Jayaprakash Sharma, who heads the Data and Analytics Center of Competency at Now's Infosystems. With over 25 years of experience, he has handled various legacy modernization, data migration, analytics platform migration projects for large enterprises across industries. In today's webinar, we will begin by setting the context, highlighting the importance of data to today's organization, industry use cases, data conversion with AI, followed by onboarding challenges, and finally, we will discuss the role of Now Zengens DMAS AI solution. Now's Infosystem is a leading global IT service provider delivering innovative technology solutions to customers across industries with more than 2 decades in the technology business. We have enabled Fortune 500 companies and SMEs to achieve digital excellence through quality engineering services. We have served customers across the global in business verticals including banking and financial services, insurance, healthcare, life sciences, retail, and manufacturing. We are excited to be hosting this event in collaboration with our esteemed partners, Zengens. Zengens is an AI tech company founded in 2020 with a vision of frictionless data conversion. When organizations migrate between enterprise applications, platforms, or outsourced services, Zengens automates the data conversion process end to end, reducing the time, cost, and risk associated with implementing new technologies. Zengens has worked with large global companies in financial services and beyond. Now, to set the context of the webinar, I would like to invite Srini. Over to you, Srini.
Thank you, Preeti, for the kind introduction. Good morning, afternoon, good evening to everyone. We really appreciate you taking time to be part of this webinar. A lot to cover today. Before we come to today's topic, let me quickly spend 30 seconds on the prior to webinars, as this is a part of the three series, as Preeti mentioned earlier. In our first webinar, June, we addressed the topic of legacy data modernization. Here we focused on legacy data that's locked up in the old and outdated systems in an enterprise. We explored how AI-powered industry-specific knowledge graphs can accelerate data conversions and help modernize even the most outdated data and data infrastructures and so on. In the second webinar in August, Unified AI-led end-to-end data migration, our aim was to look at an unified approach to the data conversion. We talked about solving common issues like data orphans, other key challenges that arise during the multi-step data conversion. We also showcase significant benefits of using an unified tool for data migration. Now, our goal has been to address data conversion in an agile and scalable way to help business to thrive in these dynamic times. With this backdrop, let me come to the today's context. Data intelligence market as seeing an unprecedented growth. The global decision intelligence market is projected to explode from 13 billion in 2024 to almost 50 billion by 2030. That's a whopping 25% annual growth. The key driver behind this growth is a digitalization and data-driven decision-making quest by enterprises to stay relevant, competitive, and future-proofing. Yet, it is staggering to see more than 70% of digital transmissions fail. Analysis shows poor data quality is at the core. It is key to note the unstructured data accounts for more than 90% of the data in the enterprise. As we know, unstructured data is messy, hard to work with, but impossible to ignore. To solve this, we need innovation through newer technology and tools, and AI is here to the rescue. To succeed in this digital age, one needs to seamless data management, data conversion, optimization. All these are possible through AI. With AI-led algorithms, one can automate and optimize data transfer process with increased accuracy, error reduction, speedier conversion, reduces overall time in the conversion. Further, AI-led data conversion ensures systems interoperability and provide integrity of data, scalability, and keeps compliance intact for modern, complex technology environments. Now let's take a quick look at how AI-led data conversion is being used across the industries. In the financial sector, we know it's very complex with legacy systems, cloud environments, regulatory bodies, all that need syncing up. Large volumes of data keeps moving continuously to add to the chaos. Fortunately, AI can map unstructured financial data such as old scanned documents and convert them into structured formats for modern ERP and reporting systems. This ensures compliance requirements, but also helps promote business agility. On the manufacturing front, we are talking about migrating or integrating the bill of materials data. BOMs are incredibly detailed and complicated, with naming inconsistencies, part numbers, and the vendor data that can widely vary between systems, add to the old legacy systems been there for the enterprise for a long time. Here again, with the help of AI tools, one can automate the conversion. Instead of spending weeks, if not months, trying to reconcile those details manually, AI helps in accurate mapping in a shorter time. Moving to healthcare, patient data is critical, and you need to ensure that every single piece of information must be transferred accurately from one system to the other. With AI trained models on formats like HL7, FHIR, patient records can move smoothly between legacy systems and modern EHR platforms. This is crucial for ensuring patient safety and staying compliant with ever-changing healthcare regulations. Finally, in retail front, migrating massive product catalogs from old and outdated platforms to your shiny new e-commerce systems. This involves not just product descriptions and SKUs, it's about mapping every tiny detail, pricing, images, categories, and so on with the precision. AI models can do this mapping for you, ensuring that the product attributes fit perfectly into the new platform structure. Goal is not just moving data, but to ensure businesses are open for customers and soon. Now, this brings us to the topic of data conversion challenges. We have mentioned earlier that projects fail due to data quality issues. Systems are smart, but I think your data need to be smarter. To get to that, I think the core is the data conversion. But data conversion is, led with very many challenges, right from complexity, limited testing protocols, inadequate data analysis, ineffective validation, data mapping issues, and non-standard process. Delving into a couple of them, for example, inadequate data analysis. Sometimes the most important information is hidden in your data, but technical constraints or lack of user awareness, you can keep it from seeing it. This is where the in-depth data analysis is required, which can be achieved through AI. Back to the data mapping. Data mapping is not just from moving information from one place to the other. It's about making sure every data item elements aligns perfectly across the systems. And typically, we find 30 odd systems, enterprises do move through when you go from one end to the other, right? If it's not done well, this renders the new systems ineffective. Finally, non-standard process. Last but not least, let's talk about danger of diverse systems being unsanctioned third-party tools. In many, it may seem appropriate to use the third-party tools initially, but over the time it escalates into higher cost and wasted project time in terms of delaying overall the engagements. While these are challenges, many more comes during the actual conversion exercise to delay these initiatives in the organization. Moving on, to summarize, the data conversion with agility at scale, as we spoke earlier, is the need of the hour for the enterprises today. Data conversion with AI provides answers, and benefits are truly game changing. In this multifaceted problem, to address efficiency, accuracy, real time processing, and the minimal unstructured data, all these are effectively tackled by AI solutions. AI steps in to solve automation, error reduction, anomaly detection, real time conversion, analytics, and finally handling the unstructured data with ease. And the benefits are in plenty, right from efficiency, accuracy, real time processing, and most importantly, handling the unstructured data, which is ever growing. All are, perfectly, addressed by AI. Now, we look at a couple of examples in the industries. They're already embarking on this. That's the proof in the pudding. Like, for example, JP Morgan Chase is, moving 70% of its data and 70% of its applications into the cloud by end of 2024. With this shift, they are aiming to boost efficiency by 30% through data modernization and conversion initiatives. Same way, if you take a look at example, Currys, retail in UK, is tapping into Azure OpenAI services for data modernization and curation to provide personalized customer experiences, product recommendations, and improve post-sales interaction, so on. Now, with this backdrop, now let me turn it over to our partners, Genzymes. I'll welcome, Kate and Carl to throw more light into the data conversion and the possibilities with AI. Kate, over to you.
First, thank you so much, Srini, JP, Preeti, and the Nous team for the great partnership between Nous and Zengens. It's been a pleasure having these webinars where we bring the conversation of AI-based data conversion to the forefront. And in this webinar today, we wanted to emphasize the point of why is it so important to think about data migration in a repeatable and scalable way. First question would be, who does this apply to? And the very quick answer to this is everyone. When we think of what organizations undertake to stay modern, to stay competitive, it's very important that they are remaining current with change and being able to apply change into those organizations. And hence, we feel that the concept of thinking about repeatability and scalability is very important to organizations that take change, like large enterprises, mid-sized organizations, etc. But also that as they embark on that change, it's the partners that they work with, including software vendors and process outsourcers. So Carl and I wanted to share a perspective about how this becomes possible with Zengens AI. On the next slide, just to set the context of the conversation, who does this benefit? We, again, feel that this is everyone. And in the conversation, Carl will be talking about how one specific use case around onboarding and the benefits of the repeatability and scalability of that. That said, onboarding is really something that benefits two entities in that picture. So we like to say that conversions it benefits organizations as well as the systems or the service providers that are delivering some product or service. From our viewpoint, that's this concept of two sides of the same coin. So in this case, for example, the fact that there is systems change in an organization, like systems migration, customer onboarding, software upgrades, M&A transactions, that's the use case that will undertake or have a data conversion need. And during that time, we see that the enterprise benefits because that program can be completed with less time, cost, and risk if that conversion happens faster. Ultimately, organizations can implement change faster and more often, and that's an ultimate goal for this concept of frictionless data conversion that Zengens has. Similarly, the vendor benefits as well, because that customer implementation goes live sooner, and the experience is better if there's a lot less friction, a lot less pain point associated with that data conversion. Carl's going to share more about the details of how this becomes possible. Carl, you're on mute.
That doesn't help. Thank you. We can go on to the next slide. It is important, though, to note that especially for those large enterprises, when you do a large scale conversion, you don't do it once. You convert many different environments. The test environment gets done first, then you get to production, and you frequently have to do that many times for different tranches of data if you have a large amount to move. So repeatability is something that is critical to all of those enterprises. But getting a new customer onboarded is one of the huge differentiators for SaaS companies. You can see a few statistics there and the fact that customers want that process to be simple, fast, and seamless. And they will consider changing if they didn't have a good experience around it. So every software company wants to do well at that, but it's a little bit tricky because what are they converting from? They don't know. They only know what they're moving to. So we think that there are a lot of things that make the onboarding process complex. The first one is the lack of resources. Whenever somebody's making a change, everybody has a day job. Nobody's got excess capacity. They need to free up some amount of resource, but they also often bring in outside experts who know the software platform that they're moving to. But the humans just aren't scalable. We need to keep as little involvement there as we can. Another problem is that the data is all over the place. When you put in a new system, it's not that your old system always had 100% of the data. It comes from many different sources. The system that's being replaced has many interfaces in and many interfaces out, and they all have to end up with the right data in the long run. So many different types. Srini talked about the unstructured data. You don't know what data formats are going to be there. It often takes a while to figure out all the things that need to go in. Doing this conversion process by hand is slow, The first step a lot of times is mapping the data between two systems. And if you have hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of individual pieces of data, that can be months of time. Lastly, when you do your conversion, there are lots of steps in the process. Early analysis to understand what data you have, how clean it is, what else you're going to have to do with it. Uh, that information really is never used by a data integration firm to figure out uh, what the right thing is to do with it. So having connected pieces becomes an important part. We can go on to the next slide. So what makes it really hard? The people. The people, nobody knows necessarily the sources and targets. They're in short supply, they have limited time, or they could leave anywhere along the way. That applies to both the consultants that you bring in. Sometimes their experts leave. Sometimes they can't get the right person on the right project at the right time. It helps an enormous amount to make that a more automated process and to not have to rely so heavily on experts. Secondly, well, one of the things that many of the firms bring in is a better process because they've done it many times, but that doesn't mean everybody follows all of the steps. Sometimes they try to take shortcuts. Sometimes they don't fully analyze their data. Getting good, consistent, understood data, some good analysis up front is a really important part of the process. And having that well understood and knowing that you need to go through a lot of those steps, even if you can really compress the time, is critically important. And the last thing are the tools. I would bet that everybody out there has a bunch of data management tools, but they aren't geared towards actually the outcome of moving data from one system to another and having the right data be there. You may have a tool that's good at profiling things. You may have a good data catalog, but are they connected together? Can you use the output of one into the other? They aren't generally connected in any way, any meaningful way. And lastly, those data management tools you have don't remember anything. You did a conversion, you've put in a new system, it was the target when you made that conversion, now it's the source. Those tools start all over again. They don't have any knowledge of what's there. So if you try to make this repeatable and scalable, you really need to address all of those things. We can go for our next slide. So what has Engines done? The first thing is we've combined together the best of data science, AI, with data integration, with domain knowledge, and put that all together into a SaaS-based platform. We provide a bunch of dashboards that show the analysis that allows you to understand your data, understand the quality of the data, the quantity of the data, as well as the complexity of the data. And what we produce is the outcome of an actual converted system. Data moved into the proper system, correct data, populating the new system that you wanted to put in place. With a bunch of ancillary other pieces, one is a good business data glossary and metadata catalog, some good analytics, an understanding of all of the data anomalies and exceptions, the ability to crosswalk all of the individual codes that drive the behavior of the systems. This is all auditable. We also can provide to you all of the lineage around how the data started, what it went through, what was the logic there, and what happened on the other side. So this is an entirely new way of actually getting from end to end, because it's an end-to-end process and because it actually addresses all that. And it does that using a bunch of AI. I'll try to explain a few of the places where that takes place next. Go on. So the first thing is that when we're doing our all of this processing, you need to understand that a large language model, that some of the non-specific AI use out there isn't sufficient. It doesn't know about your system. It doesn't know about schemas and the way the data is represented inside individual applications. And making that generic doesn't help. So it also doesn't understand your vocabulary, your terminology, the way you use certain terms. Zengens takes that into account and has a way of bringing in the right terminology to drive industry-specific transformations. It understands that a security that you would trade is different than a security like locking your door. So the first step, though, is apply AI against the planning process. Understand the data really well, analyze it thoroughly, do that really quickly because we want to know whether we've got good data. We want to be able to fix the problems in the data earlier, not after the fact, not after. We don't want to move garbage in and get garbage out. So we want to understand that. We also want to understand what else is in there. We want to understand the entire set glossary of terms that are used. We apply AI against a lot of the different possible inputs, against the systems themselves, against their data, against their documentation, anything that can help us to understand that system better. We use fairly traditional algorithms to classify a bunch of the data, but some very unique algorithms to generate the mappings between the systems. That cuts out a lot of analysis time. We also take advantage of understanding to automatically generate the necessary transformations for the data, to change the way it's structured, to change the data itself, and to be able to push that through. Lastly, we can help on the testing side. We want to get the same output or something fairly consistent. We can help generate automatically using all of this metadata, good test cases, and we can do automated reconciliation of the output to say we actually got the right results on the other side. So Zengens is applying AI across each one of those steps and has put all the steps together so that you get the right outcome, a fast, efficient, accurate conversion from the set of systems you started with to the new ones. Next slide. Just one case study. We had a large wealth customer. They were trying to get rid of an ancient system, something that had been changed and customized over 30 years of time. It really couldn't support their current growth. It couldn't deal with where they were headed. It wasn't at all modern. Replacing that system required putting in 4 new systems, things that handled their trading, their investment accounting, the performance of those investments, as well as their customer relationship system. And on top of that, they had some difficult problems with the tools that they had. They couldn't deal with change very easily. So this client engaged us to help with that whole process and set up migration as a service, made this a repeatable process. We used a huge amount of automation to move over their large number of accounts in many different environments and in many different tranches of that. They didn't want to do a big bang. They didn't want to convert all of their customers all at once. They needed it to be repeatable. They also needed to gather the information and keep their data governance and existing metadata catalog up to date. So the quote from their vice chair, Zengens will be the linchpin of our implementation. We're a fundamental part of everything that they needed to do from soup to nuts. I hope you've gotten a good appreciation for the fact that you want this to happen fast. You want this to be cheap. You can apply AI across a lot of different steps, but you also need to have those steps knitted together so that you really can achieve the kind of acceleration that you want. Back to our partners in Nous. You're on mute, Srini.
You are on mute.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry, Kate and Carl. Very, very interesting topic, and thanks for throwing a lot of light, in terms of the nuances involved in terms of moving the legacy data with AI. The possibilities are endless. I think AI is here is to the rescue. If you look at the possibilities, modernization decreases up to 40% of the time. There's a quantum leap in data migration solutions. AI proactively cleanses and standardizes the data. It devises optimized migration strategies by analyzing data, in different ways, like what Carlos mentioned on this, the financial customer. Increased efficiency, accuracy, agility, that we've seen it all the time in the previous slides. And then the enterprises are becoming more and more data centric, as we move forward, and AI is the only way. So we do see that AI, infiltrating, accelerating the data modernization, data conversion, and in this AI journey. With now Genzyme's DMAS, data modernization happens at a lightning speed, like we like to say that. And let me hand over to JP to give a little bit of insight into the what is DMAS. JP, over to you.
Thanks, Srini. Right. So now's GMAS is a comprehensive solution that we have built around the AI powered enzymes. Okay. So basically, this becomes one-stop solution for end-to-end data migration or data conversions. It could be one time or it could be multiple repeated conversions that are needed. Okay. So usually when we look at any data conversion, there are several steps involved. The first and foremost thing is, first of all, looking at whether the data is ready for my, conversion. So the validation of the data and look at flagging the issues and all that. And then the next key thing, which generally takes 90% of the overall conversions, is the mapping. Okay, this is the place where people have to use a lot of domain knowledge. If at all we don't have any automatic mechanism to do the mapping, on the should have knowledge on the source, knowledge on the destination. So this is something that takes bulk of the time. So our solution provides completely automated way of mapping so that it automatically matches source to destination schemas, and then it leaves very uh, you know small amount of work for the uh, people to do manual adjustments. And then the next piece is, how do we do the migration? Do we do the batches, and how do you do the incremental updates till you go live? So all that is taken care within our solution, providing both batch as well as incremental loads possible. And then the key aspect is, whenever when we do the large migrations or large conversions, it's not one person who does the work, right? We may have multiple people collaborate and coordinate. So that the DMAS workbench provides a nice way to collaborate, the entire process with the people by properly, able to define the activities and properly combining them again into the process. then the next thing is, most of the times when we work on these, we should have some way to roll back certain uh, uh, when we encounter some issues and then move forward. So that seamless mechanism is also part before starting the migration. And the other pieces, two key pieces that are very important in any conversions are: one is how do we monitor, and then how do we report any issues or blockers or whatever, so that we have a seamless mechanism to do continuous monitoring and reporting. And the final one is, once the conversion happens, how do we reconcile the data? This again, completely AI-enabled, uh, auto test creation and reconciliation processes built in, which makes the entire reconciliation process seamless and overall, provides, seamless data migration with utmost accuracy and obviously the very fast migrations possible. Okay, can you move to next slide? So when we go slightly deeper inside into the workbench, as I was detailing in several steps, main things, top three things that are involved in any migration is, first of all, the assessment of data, the existing system and the data what is available, and is it in a position to migrate, do the conversion, or do we need to do certain pre-conversion cleanup? All that will be, done in the assessment phase. Once the assessment is properly done, and once we identify the entities or whatever that we need to migrate, and once I identify the target, then the next piece is the migration. This is where the key aspect of AI enablement comes into picture, where we do this auto mapping and then do the almost no code data pipeline creation, and then migrate the executing the entire migration process. Once we do that, then the validation. Of course, we talked about pre-migration validation of the data and all that. At the same time, the post-migration validation also is key aspect. These are the broad level, the major stages, and in each stage we have, in the case of data mapping, AI plays key role, where the knowledge graph that is built uh, over the period based on multiple migrations or conversions happened within the same domain helps in mapping the source to target schemas. And once that is done, creating the pipelines is the next crucial one, especially for the migration stage. Again, the entire robust data pipeline development process is almost, nearly no code or low code uh, type of, uh, you know, mm, design that has. And then the migration and validation, where as I have mentioned, proper, validation, test cases will be built automatically, and those are executed to validate and reconcile the data, uh, you know, after the migration. And the crucial piece after this validation is cutover and go live. Because what happens is, once we do the conversion also, we may need to do certain data sync up until we are ready to cut over to the new system. So that, the incremental, data sync up is another piece that is very crucial for this, any data conversion, which is again is done pretty well with the robust built-in tool set that are available. Can you go to next? So what are the key benefits and what is the value proposition with the DMAS. Obviously, end-to-end migration, we don't need to look for multiple tools and then not knowing how to take output of one tool as the input of another tool, as Carl mentioned in his previous discussions. Similarly, the entire validation is completely automated. With this, one is the accuracy is pretty good, and then the migration velocity becomes, almost I would say 4 to 5x. That is a key benefit. And obviously, the once we reduce the time for the migration, obviously the cost of the migration also will be reduced. It can be even 50 or even more percent reduction in the cost of migration. And then other pieces, especially during the assessment phase, the automated discovery of the source database. That is, because that's where a lot of domain expertise and then a lot of skill is needed to understand and then determine whether the data is ready for conversion and what are the steps involved in getting it ready. All that is requires a lot of expertise. But with this solution, AI takes care of most of this part, so that the load on the uh, expert's manual analysis is completely reduced. And then data mapping is another crucial piece, as I was mentioning in the previous slides. This is the 90%. Usually in any migration, 90% of the time goes in data mapping, and multiple iterations of data mapping happens, which is 90% reduced by the AI-enabled mapping capability. And pre and post migration validation is seamless and accurate. So these are the benefits that anyone gets out of this DMAS solution. Can you go to? So why Genzymes? You know, uh, Genzymes brings the automation, right? So we can say without Genzymes what happens, and with Genzymes what happens. So without Genzymes, obviously, uh, any conversion becomes most of the mappings and transformations become guesswork if you don't have the automation or the knowledge graph in place. Why? Because uh, any data conversions requires the knowledge of source, knowledge of target, and most of the cases the domain knowledge also, because most of the terms used are very specific to domain. Unless we understand them well, we will be simply doing some approximations. Uh, that's and it is error prone. Okay, so that's a major problem. Another one, building data transformations is again becomes a lengthy, laborious process. Why? Because we need to understand each and every source, the attributes and entities, and then target entities and attributes, and then the nature of calculations that are done. So those things will be a problem if we don't have enough knowledge of the source and target. So that is again a lengthy process as well as error prone. Okay. And once the migration happens, when we really want to run the migrated and the original data in parallel and then compare before going live, that again needs a lot of uh, time and skill, and still we may end up missing a lot of anomalies. Okay, so these are the key issues without James. That means with a manual process, because manual process is error prone at every stage and requires domain as well as source and target schema knowledge really if you want to build a proper mapping. And then, however nicely we do, the validations becomes major issue. With enzymes, definitely the entire process is very fast. It's scalable because it has its own automation engine, and then it learns from the previous conversions. So that's the key aspect. And then it is uh, yeah, with the domain models available, and with the learning capability and what it remembers, it becomes uh, intelligent by each conversion that we do with enzymes. So as you do one conversion and you do a 10th conversion, you will see the drastic difference in the speed and accuracy that we see in conversions. Okay, and it is completely automated. So automation not only brings the speed to the conversion, it also reduces errors to the minimum possible, because it is consistent. And then the overall validation and uh, final go live becomes much more easy and seamless. Can go to next.
Thank you all. Now it's time to open the floor for questions. To begin, the very first question is, what about the AI makes this repeatable?
I'll take that question. There are a large number of things that that the AI does to make it repeatable. One is having learned a set of systems, it remembers them, and that's a critical element. We put those into our knowledge graph to understand what's there and how what's being represented. Um, but it also makes it repeatable because we're able to analyze the data in the same way. We often get many tranches of data, and we really want to make sure that there's no new anomalies in the data that we're processing. So we want to keep applying the same type of complex analysis of the data over and over again around it. Um, those pieces help make that repeatable, make sure that we're following the right steps around that. Um, so other areas where it helps are in classification of the data itself, and also in those transformation rules. How do we go and actually transform it? Because if we see a variation, we may want to vary how that transformation takes place. So having the AI detect that, having it understand the starting points and the end points, and all the ways that it needs to be changed in between, really makes it a lot easier to do second round, the second time, or with the second set of data that you need to process.
Thank you, Carl. Next, how can enterprises leverage AI-driven data analytics?
Yeah, Preeti, I think I'll take this one. This is a sweet topic, I think. Like in comparison to traditional analytics, adding AI into the mix, like what Carl has explained and what we learned in the last few minutes on several possibilities, literally it makes analytics on steroids. This can improve decision making process with uncover hidden insights, quicker business turnaround, increased operational efficiency, ever changing compliance landscape, and finally businesses can become more agile and competitive and future proofing. So it is almost fundamental to employ AI into the mix to make the data analytics even more stronger in an enterprise.
Thank you, Srini. Next, how does this change the operating model for an onboarding team?
Operating model, Preeti, I'll take this one. It brings me back to my former career of doing a lot of consulting work in ensuring that any type of solution or tool that's deployed really works effectively to receive all the benefit that a team expects. When I think of operating model, I think of several aspects like the people, process, technology, and there's many more elements like interaction model and location, footprint, etc. But I'll focus on the first three aspects. The first, most simplest aspect is that we're truly looking to have an operating model that is more simplified in order to achieve this concept of speed, repeatability, and scalability. When we think of the people side, if you think of what an onboarding team or an implementation team looks like today, I call it the sprawl, the spiderweb sprawl of a lot of different people that have to do a lot of different things across the activities to ensure that go live happens. So one of the most obvious changes to an operating model is the fact that we are truly elevating the business analyst, and we are making him or her be much more effective and comprehensive in what he or she can do. So we reduce the need for a lot of part-time SMEs, part-time, high expensive engineers or DBAs, folks that you might have tapped into in order to answer questions or get through complex portions of a data conversion. All of those things are capable to the BA to achieve through one platform. On the side of process, I would say that, again, there's a simplification to what's being done. The various team members now, for example, the project manager would have a higher confidence in project management estimates because of what he or she has access to, and it's a fact-based data set that allows them to understand what has to be targeted, what is being worked on, how is this different from the previous efforts. And the work now from the BA perspective focuses on anomalies. As JP talked through, there's a lot of automation, there's a lot of things that are remembered and therefore accelerated from a workload perspective. So there is a focus on anomalies, and that's part of the whole acceleration. And then finally, on the tech side of the operating model, I would say that we're really talking about simplifying this significantly. One, de-risking it so that it's not an Excel-based solution, but two, simplifying it because it's one platform. All of the various steps of getting through the conversion is a unified, integrated platform in Zengens that goes through the analysis, the mapping, the loading, the reconciliation, and leveraging all of the knowledge base through the ZKG. So you're not having to patch together disparate tools. You're not having to worry about keeping current an Excel file or a lot of complex Excel rules. That's a lot more of the whole promise of simplification and the change to the op model.
Thank you, Caitlin. We greatly appreciate your participation. Due to time constraint, we request you to kindly drop in your questions using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. We'll follow up via email or provide additional resources to ensure your query is answered. Coming to the end of our webinar, thank you all for joining us today. We sincerely appreciate you being here. If you'd like to continue the conversation, feel free to reach out to us at info@nousinfosystems.com or any of the provided email addresses. Thank you once again and have a wonderful day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
you.
Thank you. Bye.